All right. To the military.
Article 2, Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. This is generally taken to be the formation of the cabinet and is definitely the formation of, the president as being in charge of the military.
Yeah, I did not know he was in charge of the state militia, too.
Well, when called into the actual service of the United States. So it's worth remembering that at this time there wasn't really the whole, Federal Army / National Guard that we have today. But even as recently as the 20th century, Eisenhower called up the National Guard in Little Rock to defend children going to school because they were black children going to a previously white school. So the Constitution gives him that authority, and as a former soldier himself, Eisenhower would have been well aware of that fact.
Yeah, I think because around the same time, another one I remember just came into effect was when Truman fired MacArthur.
Yes, very famously. And not without cause. And I mean, Lincoln fired a bunch of generals in his day.
Until he got a few of them. I know a lot. The first few were I think people think were incompetent, and some I guess weren't incompetent, but they were. I guess they I think besides Grant, I think one of the good ones was was it Meade or something?
Meade was pretty good, but he wasn't effective at governing the entire military.
Yeah. Was he the one under Gettysburg?
Yes. And then there was McClellan. I have said a lot about McClellan and will continue to do so because, wow, he was a piece of work.
Yeah. I don't know what's true. I heard rumors that he had a chance to go against the Richmond lots of times. We never did.
If he had pushed his advantage, he could have taken Richmond much sooner than he did. He was always convinced that the Confederacy had more soldiers than he did, and at one point was literally fooled by what were called Quaker cannons, which were logs painted to look like cannons. But if you listen to him, he was the only competent man in the entire military. So yeah, I have feelings about McClellan.
And he ran for president in 1964.
Yes, which was the first election with absentee voting so that the soldiers could vote. And the soldier vote overwhelmingly went for Lincoln.
I wonder why. Be like, hey guys, I'm your former commander-in-chief. I'm your former boss, or not boss, but former general. Vote for me, right? Well, yeah. They're like, no.
No, I don't think that's happening. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments. In practice these days, there's a room full of guys. Well, people. There have been women in it since Roosevelt. But he appoints in practice the heads of these various branches of the executive, provided they can pass background checks, of course. But in practice, this means that the president is able to have a variety of people advising him
Now, at this point, was it called the Secretary of War, or Secretary of Army, or something? That was
Secretary of War.
that wasn't defense yet.
Yeah, defense came, I think, during the Cold War.
Yeah, like was there? I don't know. I forget if there was a separate Secretary of Army and Navy in the future, or is it always just one?
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Department of War in 1789 was Department of War, became Department of the Army in 1947. There was a separate Department of the Navy starting in 1798.
I can remember three of them. See, the first ones were Jefferson State, Hamilton, Treasury. Was it Knox for War? And
Yes.
The fourth one, I forget.
Attorney General Edmund Randolph.
Yeah, that name I had no idea who that was.
And John Adams wasn't included because the position was at the time considered legislative and not executive. Vice President didn't really become part of the cabinet until the 20th century. You know, the size of the cabinet has obviously grown over the years.
Is it was it 15, 16 now, or?
Yeah, the current cabinet has 26 members.
Wow, 20. I thought I was way off.
Yeah, well, there are 15 department heads, plus the vice president, and 10, quote, cabinet-level officials, all but 2 of whom require Senate confirmation. It's not an official branch of the government. It's all just sort of inferred from this clause is a thing. But it's a smart idea.
Yeah, didn't they lose a few of them too? Like, wasn't there used to be a Secretary of Post people?
There used to be a Secretary of the Post Office before the Post Office was reorganized and it's now its own thing. The secretaries in charge of the military have been shifted around until now we've got the Department of Defense. 1949, it became the Department of Defense. So it shuffles, and there are some jobs that are sometimes cabinet level and sometimes not. And there have been departments that have been proposed as cabinet level. Founding Father Benjamin Rush actually proposed a Department of Peace. Quincy Jones proposed a Department of Art, which would be kind of nice. It's not gonna happen, but he proposed it.
Yeah. I still think we need a Department of Internet or Social Media, or
yeah, no. There are a whole bunch of things. You know, there are some ways that I would really reorganize some of the government departments.
The Department of YouTube and Twitch streaming.
Jesus. That's not one of them.
that would be definitely a millennial or Gen Z department if they ever get elected.
Yeah.
Department of TikTok.
But I do think, you know, communication is something that we should be putting a little bit more focus into and really looking at how things are happening. And that's one where I'd really like to see a younger person in charge of it.
Yep. Next president, the MTV generation.
You know, one of my very good friends, one of my best friends, says that she's the same age as MTV and the AIDS crisis. Because all the official start of the AIDS crisis is 1981, which is the same year that MTV launched and my friend was born.